3 cards I want to share with you today. They're clean and simple cards because I'm participating in a challenge at the Less is More Challenge blog, and this week it is Old Christmas. And I'm going to start out with a Gerda Steiner design stamp that I just got, and this is called Warm Fuzzies. It's super cute. I got another little penguin set, and they were just small stamps with just one cute image and a sentiment or two. And I did the penguin yesterday on my blog, on the December 1st blog post. For this one, I'm going to use this Ink on 3 Fadeout ink. This is a new product for me. I just got this. This is so you can do no line coloring. It's a detail ink that's waterproof, so that should make it perfect for watercoloring. It's a hybrid ink, and it turns out that it's acid-free and archival, so I could use this in my scrapbooks also. And it's supposed to, it's going to stamp really light. You're barely going to be able to see the image, and it will fade out over time, although I am going to end up coloring over the line, so it really won't matter. But it gives you a nice no-line image, and I think this is great for watercoloring or alcohol markers. So I stamp it, and see, you can very barely see that, and I really want to color this little bear in browns. My Copic set is, like, I have very limited Copic markers, but I do have a few of the E-teens. So like I have E19, E18, E15, E13, E11, and those are I'm going to use a few of those. I'm going to actually start with the darkest one, and my darkest one that I'm going to use today is E18. So I'm just going to go around this little bear where I think the colors will be the darkest, and I'll do a little bit of flicking where I think I want to see some hair, like on the top of his head, because the artist actually put hair there, so I'm going to just flick those out. And then I usually make the right side of my images darker just out of habit, so I'm going to make those lines a little bit darker. So like above the little feet, I'm, where the feet meet the corner of the body, I'm just making it a little bit darker and just kind of flicking out in the center there. And now I'm going to pull out the E15, which is slightly lighter, but it feels like almost the same color when I look at the caps. And I've been taking classes from a couple different instructors. One instructor does a lot of flicking like I just did there, and the other instructor goes over the top of the darker color with the next color, and then takes the second color a little bit farther out, and I kind of am more comfortable with that technique. So instead of flicking, I end up going to that technique and just doing, I really want to color the whole bear in. One of the challenges I find with Copic coloring, or that I'm like I think for me the biggest challenge is leaving some white space so that you get the highlights. And I especially find it hard on little images like this. So that's one of the things I definitely need to practice, and you'll see I don't leave any white highlights on this. But I actually do get the blended look that I'm attempting. Like, that's my big goal for this. And so now I've got 2 colors put down. I'm going to pick up the E13, and I'm just going to go over the top of the other 2 colors, flick the little hairs, and then try to pull that E13 in a little bit closer to the center. And before I do that, I don't want to lose, because this is so light, I don't want to lose like the little face details. So I pulled out R20 to fill in the area around his mouth. And it's a light pink color. I don't love that. So I will end up changing that. And this is my W9, which is almost a black. This is a warm gray. It's the darkest one I have. And I add the mouth details and color in the nose, and I leave a little white spot in the middle of the nose. So good for me. I just pulled out my E18, and I flicked like 3 little flicks in the middle of the ear, and I did over the eyebrows with that. Now this is my E13, so I'm pulling the color in more toward the center, and I'm just going to keep doing that. Now I picked up the E18, the darkest one, and I am just going over and making it a little bit wider, the darker parts a little bit wider, and adding a little bit more dark to it. I have discovered in the classes that I've been taking that a lot of times they'll do all of their colors, and then they'll go over them a second time, because a lot of times when you add that lightest color in, you lose some of your darker details. So I have learned that it's okay to actually totally recolor it again, and it seems like you get a nicer blending the second time, and I sort of find it a way to fix some of my mistakes and make some areas darker so they stand out more, that I think should be darker. So I'm just filling in. This is my E11. That's the lightest color I'm going to use on this. Now here I am coloring what I think is the belly. I've forgotten that that little bear is holding a mug, so I have to actually come back in and fix that later, or decide to just leave that his belly, but I really wanted that mug in there. So you'll see that I do actually do an okay job fixing it. I think part of learning a technique is being a little bit adventurous and trying to do it on your own without like an instructor present, and then figuring out how to fix the mistakes that you made, because fixing the mistakes that you make is a huge part of card making. Like, how can I get rid of that smudge of ink, or what am I going to do? I just went outside the line. So you have to learn how to fix those. So I just keep going back in with my darker colors and trying to get more of the darker shadows, and then I go over it with this is the E13, which I consider to be the medium color that I'm using, and I'm just trying to like go more toward the center of his face. I really need to work on leaving white spots, because I'm just not really good at that. And I did a little flicking above the nose with the E15, which is one of the second darkest color. Now I've got the E11, and I'm just going back over. I'm pulling some of that other color that I've just re-added, and I'm sort of going over all the colors with the lightest color, and I'm trying to pull that toward the center while keeping that center part, like his cheeks, lighter. And I'm actually not unhappy with how this is coming out. For the point that I'm at with my Copic coloring skills, this is actually okay for me. So I actually made his feet and that area around under his nose and around his mouth there, I made that pink, and I don't love it. Like, I used the R20 and the R22, and I don't really like it. So now I'm going to go around that with my E18, and then my E13, just to start blending it in a little bit. And I'm adding a little bit more, I think that's E15 there. So you can just see I'm just playing around trying to get the color that I want. And then I left that pink in the middle, but now I picked up my E11 and went right over the top of it. And I still have not remembered that that is a cup instead of his stomach. So I'm adding some of my E18, and I'm just re-adding the flicks right above his nose, because I really want there to be a shadow above his nose, and the flicks inside his ears, and then the little hairs at the top of his head, and just below his chin, and just kind of blending it. And trying to keep the light spots there. He's very cute. Like, this is a cute little bear. And by no means am I trying to teach anyone how to do Copic coloring. So, I'm just kind of fussing with this. Like, this is what I do with watercolors. I fuss until I hate it. But it seems like it gets a little better with the Copics when you fuss. And now I've decided I don't want that pink. around his nose. It doesn't look right. So I'm pulling out some, I think this is E30, and I realize this isn't quite right. So I'm actually going to pull out, actually that's my W3. I pulled out some gray. So I went around the edge of his nose with the gray, and then I'm going to fill it in with like the E30 and the R20, and you know, I'm going to fuss with this a little till I get the color right, and I kind of want it to look like it's his snout almost, and it's going to stand out. So I'm doing the scarf he's got around his neck, and I've pulled out R37, and I've just gone around the edges and around that crease where I think it should be the darkest. And the other color I'm going to use is R32, and then R20 I think is probably, no, R30. So I have R37, R32, and R30 that I'm using. And I'm just going to I go back twice here really, and I make the darker spots darker, which I could have also done. I could have put a gray down where the crease is on each side there on the scarf, and then gone back over it with the R37. That's another way to get it slightly darker. So I've done all I can there, really. And I'm realizing at this point that I need to do. So in order to do the mug over all that brown, I pull out the darkest blues that I have, and that includes B97. So I started with B97, and I just outlined around the edges where the mug should be. And I took B95 and tried to pull that B97 in a little bit, and I left a little light spot in the middle where I colored in with B91. And it actually, I'm not unhappy with it. It actually looks like a mug. So, or it looks like at least he's holding something. And that's going to complete my Copic coloring, with the exception of I'm going to take a few markers and make some dots around where he's sitting. So it looks like he's sitting on a surface. And mostly I'm going to use the blues. I like the B91 and the B95. And I also am going to pull out my W3. And I'm just going to make dots around where his bottom is, and I'm also going to add a little bit more. I just wanted that snout to stand out a little bit more, so I pulled out a couple other colors that I have. One is E55, E53, and E51, and I'm just going over that gray that I did, and I'm trying to get it to look like a lighter brown, but almost rounded. And I am going to outline that with my W5. Just going to go right around that whole like snout area with my W5. Those warm grays are great for shading something around the edges and giving it dimension. Like, you can really give something a lot of dimension. And again, I'm still just fussing with the darker spots a little bit, and adding a few more flicks for the hair and a few more flicks above the nose, just so that it starts to look a little dimensional. And I'm just going back over the eyes and the mouth with my W9, which is almost black. It's a dark marker. And still fussing with W5 and W3 there, because I just want that to look like it's standing out a little bit. And hopefully when you see the pictures, you'll see that it does sort of stand out a little bit. So now on to the surface for him to sit on, and here comes my blue. So I'm just making dots. This is one of the techniques I learned from Mindy Baxter at My Creative Scoop, and I kind of like the way this looks. She made a beautiful, like, granite-looking countertop with dots in different colors, and I'm just using B91, B95, and W3 just to give it a little bit of color and to make it look like he's sitting on something. Now I'm going to pull out my mini MISTI, and I've got this sentiment that says, Happy, Merry, Joyful Christmas, which I love. This is from one of the My Favorite Things stamp sets I got, the Penguin set, and it might be called Penguin Holiday, but I'm using Altenew permanent black ink, and I really pushed down in the ink pad, so I didn't want to have like a blob of color on like a couple of the letters, so I cleaned it off and started over. And I stamped that twice because I really love to have that super crisp, clear stamped sentiment. I think it makes your cards, it just gives your cards a more professional look. Now I'm using my Copic liner. I love this Copic liner. And I'm making some lines, and I am making zero effort to keep those straight. And I went over it twice, and I did not try to line them up. And I tried to make it look like it wasn't like it was intentionally messy, because I like the messy look. So I'm going to clean this little guy up, and I'm going to move on to my next card. And my next card, I'm going to use some layered stamps from Sunny Studios. Last year, I bought this set of stamps. Actually, I bought it over the summer. And this is called Holiday Style. This is a layered stamp set. It's got a really pretty Christmas bough, like a pine bough, and it's got some beautiful sentiments. I really love the Believe in the Magic of Christmas. And then it's got 3 layers for a little bell, and it's got a Christmas ornament. It's also got a bow, lots of choices of sentiments. And the other thing I just can't wait to use, Altenew, one of my other favorite stamp companies, came out with some new inks recently. They came out with 16 new inks, 4 sets of 4 different colors, and I absolutely love this this green color. This dark green is called Mountain Pine, and it is absolutely the perfect color for Christmas trees and for pine trees and things. They also came out with a chocolate set, and the dark milk chocolate pairs perfectly with that mountain pine. Now I am pulling out my original size MISTI for this, because I'm going to overlap that pine bough on the side of the upper corner there, and this would not fit in my mini MISTI doing this. So since I already had stamped some ink on there, I put a piece of window sheet over the top. It's one of the templates I keep in a little folder on my desk to line up letters. And I'm using the MISTI just because when I inked it up the first time, I have not used this stamp set yet, and the ink kind of bubbled up. So I know that a lot of times when I first get photopolymer stamps, I don't get a great inking the first time, so I want to ink this more than once. The best way to do that is in a stamp positioner, because you can get it perfectly lined up, and you can get that. Look at that. That color is gorgeous. I just love that color. Love, love, love. So I'm cleaning off this little laminated grid that I made for the inside of my MISTI, and just cleaning everything up. And now I want to do the bell. And again, since it's a new stamp set for me, this actually was released last year, I definitely want to continue to use my MISTI. So actually I'm going to do my sentiment first, and Believe in the Magic of Christmas. I'm going to put that, I like putting them, the sentiment and the image in diagonal corners. I'm just trying to line it up. And again, I'm using my Altenew ink, and I know it's not going to ink perfectly the first time. I'm actually going to ink this more than, I'm going to ink it a third time, because I didn't realize I have one of my magnets there is actually sitting on the edge, so it's not actually, there we go. I slide that out of the way, now I get a great inking. And the next time I use these stamps, I will only have to ink them once to get that beautiful inking. But I almost never stamp a sentiment without my MISTI anymore. So the stamp positioner, if you don't have one, it should be on your Christmas list. And I'm just showing you here that milk chocolate ink. A lot of times the pine boughs will be like two-step stamps, and that tree piece in the middle you can stamp in that milk chocolate. I did that a week or so ago with another set that I got. I actually think it was an Altenew stamp set, and it just paired so beautifully. It might have been a Concord and Night one too. They had a beautiful one also. So I took the solid image of that bell, and again, this is the first time that I've used it. You can actually stamp, if you ink it up with Versamark and then put your regular ink on, you get a better inking. So I'm using the new grays that they've got out now, and this is the first time I've used the grays. I kind of wish I'd picked a lighter pair there, and I started out with the lightest one that I pulled out to use, and that is the gray denim. And then for the second stamp, I'm using this charcoal suit color, and I kind of was looking for a light gray and a medium gray, but I pulled out the darker two colors in the set of 4 gray inks here, and I'm kind of wishing I'd pulled out the other two. But this turned out really nice. What I love about this bell is it looks like metal when you're all done. It's just so pretty, and you can do this in any combination of colors. So there's a third layer that I'm putting on top of that, and I'm going to use my black ink for that. But that charcoal suit came out a lot darker than I expected. So it almost looked black itself, but that's okay. I'm happy with the way, and you can see the different levels, and I'm sort of trying to decide, should I do the red bow? I want a little red on this card, but I need to make this a 1-layer card for the challenge, and the bow I think should be cut out and popped up on foam tape, and that would look really pretty. If I wasn't doing the challenge, I would definitely do this. So I'm going to take this little, this is like a little string die, and I'm going to put that over the top of this, and I'm going to stamp that in red. So I'm going to pull out my Altenew Crimson ink and just stamp that in red, so at least I have a little red on the card. And now I'm going to just add a couple of details. I'm going to add my lines again. And again, I'm going to add 2 sets of lines, not making them straight. If you need perfection here, I don't want perfection. I want crooked. I like the way it looks. I feel like it's a boutique touch. If you ever buy cards in a boutique, you'll get details like that. And another detail I'm adding is I'm taking my white gel pen and I'm filling in some of those highlight areas just to make them really crisp white and make them really stand out. Doesn't that look like metal? Like, it's surprising. It surprises me every time I see that. And I'm taking my Nouveau Aqua Shimmer pen. I just want to add a little glimmer. Now I want to be careful on that green because that's a dye ink, and if I put too much, it will actually run a little bit. Like, I can actually smear that ink. The black is permanent ink. That's Altenew's permanent ink. So I can put as much of that shimmer on there as I want. And I just put it on the crispness, and I would add some embellishments to this, red especially, but this is a 1-layer challenge and I can't add anything. This is just 1 layer. So for my next card, I'm pulling out another Sunny Studio stamp set, and this is one I just got. I'm pretty sure this is a new release. This is called Mug Hugs. I love this one. I think it's adorable. So I'm going to do the same thing, and these card bases that I'm using, by the way, are 5.5 by 8.5, and I'm scoring them. That's my score pail with my Teflon bow folder. I'm scoring them at 4 1/4, and all of them are really the same layout. I just wanted to show you that you can use different techniques to do this and still get a great 1-layer card, and they're so quick. Like, you could really mass produce these. So I'm pulling out one of the mugs. I like this one with the marshmallows because now that I've been using the Altenew inks, I'm thinking to myself, oh, I really need a reason to use that chocolate set. So I'm going to use that, and I really like the sentiment, wishing you a cup of cheer. And I'm also thinking that I want to put a snowflake on my mug, and I want to put that peppermint candy cane inside my mug. So I'm going to do a little masking here. So I'm going to stamp my mug down in the left-hand corner here, and I'm pulling out the other stamps that I'm going to use here. And they have several choices of snowflakes, actually. And I could have added some snowflakes around the cup in like a very light blue. That might have been interesting. To step it up a little bit, I might have done that. But I'm going to use some glitter embossing powder on this. And I'm using Altino's permanent black ink, to just stamp the image of the card. And I'm going to do it twice to make it nice and crisp and clear and make sure it's stamped beautifully. And then I'm just putting a piece of the Inkadinkadoo stamp masking paper in there, and just without re-inking, I'm just stamping it on top of that, and I'm going to fussy cut out so I can mask that off to put the candy cane in. So it looks like the candy cane is in the cup, and hopefully it looks like it's in the cup, tucked behind the marshmallows. So I'm just going to peel off the backing. Now I will save that mask and just stick it to the plastic that the stamp set is on, and then I'll have that mask to do the same thing again for another card. So this works actually really nicely. And while I have this open, I'm going to put in my sentiment also. So I pull the wishing you a cup of cheer out, and since I had the crimson, the Altino Crimson ink on there, and I'm having a lot of trouble lining this up. So one of the reasons I laminated a piece of grid paper, and one of the reasons I did that is because I really have trouble seeing light lines. So I needed darker lines, and that helps me line things up. So I moved the cardstock out of the way and lined it up, and I stamped it in this crimson, which for some reason looked super orangey. I really wanted it to be redder, so I pulled out the Heartbeat ink, also from Altino, and I just stamped right over the top of it, just to see if I could get it a little redder. It still felt kind of orangey to me, but I don't know why. So now I'm taking the little candy cane, and I'm going to move that sentiment, I hope. And I'm thinking that, I'll do it in one of the gray inks, and maybe I'll put some sparkle over the top. But then I remembered I just got, during Cyber Monday sale, I just got a Brutus Monroe embossing powder called Christmas Eve, and it's got like gold and red glitter in it, so I'm using that. There's no way I'm not using that. So you can see that I'm stamping this in Versamark. Before I use the Versamark, I use my embossing buddy. Now I'm pouring this in on top of my coffee filter so I don't waste a bunch, and it's already so much sparkle, it's unbelievable. And then I'm just going to heat set this. So I'm pulling out my heat gun, and I'm just going to heat set it. So you can't see that sparkle, but that is super sparkly where that snowflake is. That's gorgeous embossing powder. Brutus Monroe does have a monthly embossing powder club, and I decided to give it a try and see what other embossing powders he comes up with. So that's the first one I got, and it was a special. I saved a little money because I was purchasing it on Cyber Monday with the coupon codes. He's had a lot of sales lately. I've got a lot of stuff there. So I'm using the vanilla cream and the almond butter inks from Altino, and then I also put down some of the Heartbeat. I just smushed it onto my Ranger Craft mat, spritzed it with my Distress sprayer, and now I'm just like coloring in really lightly. I don't want to add too much water because this is not watercolor cardstock, but really lightly I'm just touching that vanilla cream color onto the marshmallows, and then I'm adding some of the almond butter just in like one little corner to make it look like they were toasted. And I'm using that heartbeat red to do every other stripe on the candy cane. Again, not using too much water because I don't want to warp the cardstock, but I just want to have a little watercolor look. So I'm going back over just one edge of the red stripe on everyone, so it's a little darker on one edge than the other. And then I'll just clean off my brush a little bit. And that's a really small brush, actually. It's like a number 2 brush, 2 round brush. And now I'm just going to take that almond butter and I'm going to just go around the edge. Yes, the almond butter. The almond butter is the darker of the two. And this is going to make a pretty light cup. I'm just going around the edges. And then I'll pull some of that color in toward the center so I get my watercolor look. Actually, I'm also putting some vanilla cream. So the center of the cup looks a little brighter and lighter, and I'll do the same thing with the handle. I'll leave some white space there on the handle and fill it in with the vanilla cream. And now I'm just trying to pull some of that almond butter through so the cup, like a little sort of curved pull so the cup looks rounded. And I took some of that red, and I'm just filling in the center of that snowflake with the red, that heartbeat red, and I just really like the way this came out. And again, doing my lines. If you want straight lines, use a ruler, measure it perfectly. I want them crooked because I like the way that looks. And that's going to complete my card. So I end up with 2 cards from Sunny Studios, one from Gerda Steiner. One is watercolored, one is, there's my Copic one, and he's kind of cute. That is a layered stamp using just inks and a little bit of sparkle, and then a little bit of sparkle on this and just a little tiny bit of watercoloring. So it doesn't matter what technique you use. You can make a cute, clean, and simple card just by, using one simple image and a simple sentiment. You don't need a lot to make a super cute card. So thanks so much for watching. Give this video a like. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. Share this video with your friends on your favorite social media. And stop by my blog at stampingimperfection.com. I'm going to have links to most of this stuff below. And I will also have more details on my blog. So thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.